The world teaches you about race. The world teaches you that it's a mean place, that it's an ugly place on occasion. And on other occasions, you find that it's wonderfully embracing and that there's balance. So you just need to be aware of where you are and how you behave, and that there's a context for all of this stuff. I grew up in New York, and my parents had met during World War II. My mother was from Berlin, and as the Russians advanced, her home was overrun, and she was forced to flee and become a refugee, and her family was to have met in Frankfurt. My father was an American soldier who spoke a little bit of German and was the translator for his unit, and he too was stationed in Frankfurt. They fell into a group of black soldiers and white Germans, women who formed a social set. My parents married and ultimately moved to New York, where I was raised, born and raised, initially in Astoria and then further out on the island in Queens. My own identity was always very clear to me. In Astoria, we lived in public housing, which was very common for soldiers returning from the war. And so it was a very multi-ethnic community. There were people of every sort of description. My sense of myself was always very clear from just looking at my parents. Your family is your family. This is your father, this is your mother. And that's a distinction which you make no further distinction. The distinction that you're talking about, that of race, is one that's made by the outside world. As we traveled across the country, I was born in 1949. I have an older sister and a younger brother. So when we traveled in the United States by car, as people did, we would pass through towns in which our presence was marked, shall we say, by the attention of people from those communities. And people would point at each of the rest stops, at every place that we stopped for refreshment. There was some remarking, some pointing, some awareness that this was unusual. And that's where one comes to a sense of a racial identification, is from the outside world. It's my sincere hope that I can contribute to a discussion of race in this country. To do so, however, I felt the need to broaden the base of the conversation. That in America, when we think about race, America's very self-conscious about its history and about its past crimes, shall we say. Those things for which people are not proud, or for which there are family secrets, because it's been so charged in this country. And it tends to be a black and white discussion. As you move beyond the borders of the United States, you find that the discussion changes somewhat, and that it's not the same black-white discussion. It might be more economic, it might be class-based. And I think that that is indeed where the country's discussion is moving. The distinction I made in my life is not so much their racial difference, but their cultural difference, and that's the significant thing. So in the project that I'm working on, I consider that it's about multiple ethnicities, because it is culture which I think makes the most demonstrable difference. The hope is, it's utopian, that ultimately we will be one people. And I think of the American slogan, E pluribus unum, from many one, and that this thought that even though multi-ethnic people have different points of origin, different populations have come together, and they are different as a consequence in terms of how they look. In fact, they share this life experience together, and so from the many we become one.